Hello and welcome back to the Keep Right On podcast, a Birmingham City podcast brought to you by us here at Birmingham Live. The two of us this week, myself and Brian Dick. Brian reacting to a very, very big win, even if by a small margin, against Wycombe Wanderers that put Blues 12 points clear at the top of League One with a game in hand, with 14 games of this season remaining, 13 for Blues rivals at the top of the league. Give us your take on Saturday. It was a huge, momentous occasion, wasn't it?
It was significant. It was a significant match rather than a momentous occasion in terms of like Newcastle Cup match was a momentous occasion. I think my biggest takeaway, two big takeaways. At halftime, I'm thinking this is the best that League One can offer to stop Blues going up. I thought Blues, they were levels above a team, that has so impressively kept pace with Blues all season. And I was thinking, we are watching two different levels of football going on here. And then maybe it was a sending off. Maybe it was too easy. Whatever happened, I thought the second half was a little bit harder, wasn't it? Blues sort of, I don't know if they lost their way, but they didn't seem to have the complete control in the second half that they did in the first. But yeah, I mean, just initially the clear blue water between the first and the second two teams in League One was there to see for that first 45 minutes.
I think just touching on your point about, why the game is pretty different in the second half, I think Wycombe almost reverted to type, didn't they? In that since Mike Dodds has come in, they've tried to play a little bit more football and be on the front foot a tad more, whereas before in the Matt Bloomfield, they were far more direct and quite effective that way. And second half, when he brought on Sonny Bradley, went to a back three with three really big imposing centre-backs. It became quite clear they were going to target set pieces, didn't it? And they had a couple of really dangerous moments. I think Bradley almost got to one ahead of Allsop not long into the second half. And that was where they caused Blues issues. And like you say, Blues maybe took their foot off the gas a little bit in the second half to preserve energy. Let's not forget it is a team that's going through a ridiculous amount of fixtures at the moment with a game every Saturday, every Tuesday. So they're probably entitled to a breather. And if they can take one in games, that's probably a good thing as well. But as you said, Brian, there were levels to that game. And Blues, particularly in the first half, were miles clear.
Yeah, I thought they moved the ball really well. Peck and Iwata were, in complete symmetry, or synergy rather than symmetry. Clara was up in his sort of a hidey hole just outside the penalty area, picking passes. Ethan Laird once again, had the beating of his man almost at will. Kieran Dowell was finding pockets of space. Did I see in that first 45 minutes signs of Thor just starting to find his way back into form a little bit? He did a couple of things. I thought, okay, right, that's the Thor we saw at the start of the season. Do you agree with that or not?
No, I do agree on the first half performance, to be honest. I thought he was actually quite good, not in terms of like individually in his play, but in terms of working with Dowell, working with TGH. I thought he actually combined quite well and popped up in some really good positions on the left a little bit as well, which I haven't seen from him in quite a while in terms of drifting over to that space and delivering from that side. So it was more encouraging. I was a bit disappointed with how he tailed off in the second half. He seemed to really kind of lose any influence in the game, and it was no surprise to see him taken off. He's not really doing it for me at the moment, but no. I do admit that he was better in the first half.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're still some way short. Gardner Hickman now playing from the left, 2 goals in 2 games for a guy, with the best will in the world. He's not a left winger, although he's not been asked to play left wing in a very conventional way, is he? But Mike Dodds wasn't particularly enamoured with the goal, and I suppose his goalkeeper's got a big hand on it. I suppose we can say crap, can't we? We've said it now, haven't we? Yeah. He described it as that, and I thought that was a little bit harsh, didn't you? I mean, the pass from Allsop, the chest control, and the sweetness of the volley. That was anything but that to me.
Yeah, I put it to Chris Davies that the word that he used, and he so that he could, say the exact opposite, and he did, as you would expect, because it was a high quality goal when you think about it in terms of technical aspect, like Allsop with the pass, to see that pass firstly, and then to play that pass. How many of the League One goalkeepers can do that? None. Not many goalkeepers in the Championship can do that, and for TGH, take it on the chest, and then have the idea firstly to hit it first time and go for goal and to execute is just exceptional. So, the only, as TGH pointed out himself after the game, it's disappointing he didn't fly into the top corner, because then he probably would get the credit that he deserves for that goal. But it went in. Yes, there's probably a question mark over the goalkeeping of Will Norris, but it was an exceptional goal from Blues' point of view. And there are things that Wycombe can do to stop that, but it's not like, it doesn't stand out to me as an awful defensive goal. It's a goalkeeping mistake. But if the opposition goalkeeper is going to put the ball on attacker's chest, there's not really an awful lot you can do about it in the first place. You've then got to stop the shot and stop the goal.
Yeah, indeed. I suppose Mike Dodds would say it's preventable from that point of view, but the actual skill execution on those three levels was excellent. And I thought deserved mention, as did a stat that you highlighted, actually. Blues have taken 26 points from 30 in the matches against the top six. These are the games where, yes, Blues have been, dominating the rest of League One, or, just winning relentlessly the rest of league in their league matches against the lower teams. These are the matches where the pretenders or the contenders sort of thing to Blues crown, they need to make inroads into that points difference, and they haven't come close, have they?
No, it is the top six at the start of play on Saturday before any Charlton fans come at us, because they obviously overtook Leighton Orient, didn't they, with a late win there?
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, it's an exceptional record to not lose a game against 5 of your main challengers, to do the double over Wycombe, to do the double over Huddersfield. It's exceptional. Chris Davies has created a winning machine, hasn't he? To go through this season and win as many games as they have. We're going to come on to the kind of points totals and ridiculous scenarios that Blues are facing in the final 2 months of the season soon. But it's not the fact Blues are a top of League One that's so impressive. It's the manner in which they've done it. Yeah,
it's just relentless, isn't it? And we have to admit they have been inconvenienced at times. They were inconvenienced at Stockport, weren't they? That was a difficult game, and they did well to sort of guts out a draw there. The same at Wrexham. Once Wrexham stopped kicking Blues and started actually, playing with the football and sticking it into the penalty area in the second half, I thought Wrexham really asked a lot of questions of Blues. The fact that they've stood up to, in big games when, it is their rivals' cup final sort of thing, without being too patronising with it, although it'd be difficult to imagine being more patronising than referring to it as your opposition's cup final. It was a game that Wrexham really needed to win, and Blues managed to fight and get a result there. So there have been times when they've been far too good for the chasing pack, like they have been against Wycombe, and there's been times when they've been asked questions by the chasing pack, like they were against Wrexham and Stockport, and they found the answer in all situations. So yeah, absolutely. When we look back at this season, it'll be the fact that nobody's virtually been able to lay a glove on. I can probably name 3 or 4 teams that have, or 3 or 4 games, rather than teams that have really asked profound questions of Blues, but there's not many more, is there?
No, where they've been really rattled. You think back to the
where they've lost control of the game.
The Stockport game really stands out for me. The second half there, I don't think it didn't feel like that at Wrexham until maybe the final 5 minutes when they brought on all the forwards and really started throwing it into the box. Mansfield away, second half. That was probably the first time I saw Blues, rattled a little bit. Charlton obviously beat Blues, but they had a very, very decent game plan, to be fair, and that was a real off day. And obviously Shrewsbury was probably a 1 in a million type of game. And Blues were just very, very poor on that day. And, since then it's been 18 unbeaten, hasn't it? So they've answered that in the right way. And the games that, when you think back to the games at Stockport and Wrexham, in years gone by, Blues would have wilted in those games, wouldn't they? Ended up losing. So that shows they've got a certain amount of steel to them.
Yeah, indeed. I'd add Blackpool at home maybe as another team that laid a glove on Blues, and probably Reading in the first game of the season, albeit that it's difficult to characterise that as as an actual kind of full-on league game because there's so much teams don't know about themselves and know about each other. But Ruben Sellers did put together a good game plan that day. The other notable takeaway from this game was the injuries, wasn't it, Alex? Just give us the latest on those two key players.
Yeah, so Laird's obviously done a hamstring. So, after we've been talking about kind of how he's learned to trust his body again and been so durable this season, for him to get that is really frustrating.
We've absolutely put the mockers on him there, haven't we?
Yeah. It's a real shame as well because he's come through so many games in quick succession, has played so much, and obviously Chris Davies is going to have all the information available to him, and obviously wouldn't put Ethan Laird out there if he's in the red and at risk of injury. So it's just one of those hamstring injuries that players do get, and hopefully when Laird does get back to fitness, he still maintains that trust in his body and what he's learnt this season, and can pick up where he's left off because I feel like this season has been a real game changer for him in his career. He can really go on from this. And obviously Allsop.
Just before we go into Allsop, Alex, should we make a vow never to say that Ethan Laird and Keshi Anderson have got to the bottom of their fitness issues? Should we never do that again?
To be fair, we did it with Keshi. I think Keshi, speaking to him the other week after the Huddersfield game, he kind of acknowledged that he's just been very unfortunate in his career with injuries. And sometimes that does happen, doesn't it? And I think he's had 3 now this season with his latest hamstring. So, hopefully they're not, 6, 7 week hamstring injuries. Hopefully they're just, 3 weeks because then they can get back for the cup final and get into the team before then. So both massive players for Blues, and Blues lose that dimension, particularly with Allsop. The switches of play from Allsop to Anderson and Laird, those long balls, long diagonals have been absolutely essential in the last 2 months, and Blues are going to lose that for a little bit. Yeah,
what did Davis say about Allsop?
Not a great deal, as you would expect after the game. He did. I'm told he'd leave the ground in a boot and didn't appear particularly obviously upbeat about it. But then again, you wouldn't. So he walked off the field, which felt good at first. Then obviously in the protective boot, so it's going to be assessed. Obviously yesterday and today. So hopefully it's not a bad one. But you do feel like it's probably going to rule him out for a few games at least.
Yeah, indeed. Which will presumably bring Brad Mayo onto the bench.
Yeah, sorry. So I thought you were going to say into the lineup. I thought you were taking a mick then for a second.
Onto the bench, which will then bump Bailey Peacock-Farrell back into the first team slot, which is in which he started the season. You've put a few stats together, haven't you? Go on, just run through them, and then we'll kick them about because I don't think they're quite as. It's not the raw statistics aren't massively fair, but go on.
No, so I mean, in the actual numbers, obviously, Allsop's come into the team at a time where Blues have probably nailed down their best defence, haven't they? And the partnership of Ben Davies and Christoph Clara. Somebody told me after the game on Saturday that Blues have only conceded 4 goals in the last 18 league games.
Yeah, do the numbers and then we'll do the mitigation.
Yeah. So Allsop 19 clean sheets in 31 matches. Bailey Peacock-Farrell 2 clean sheets in 15. Obviously kept one against Rotherham in the league and one against Stevenage in the cup.
So obviously, and then you throw in the assists as well, maybe and as you referred to earlier, the attacking option that Blues goalkeeper is. It's difficult to see Peacock-Farrell pinging a ball onto a winger's chest. Either left or right. That inverted inside run that the left winger or Ethan Laird potentially on the right has been doing. Just collecting a punt from a goalkeeper without being too disrespectful is obviously more accurate than a punt. That's not available to them now, is it? To quite the same degree. But yeah.
No, it's not. That's the biggest thing for me. Allsop's distribution. As a goalkeeper, I think Peacock-Farrell is obviously competent. It's probably, I think when they signed the two of them, they didn't think there was an awful lot in his goalkeepers. Allsop's, as the season has worn on, he's kind of given you that confidence, hasn't he? In that he's probably been a better goalkeeper than I thought he was initially. We obviously knew he was good with his feet, but it is with his feet where he's just so exceptional. Speaking to Chris Davies after the game, I said, how good is he? Like with his feet. Now you've seen Premier League goalkeepers in terms of distribution, what does he look like? And he said, like, with the goalkeepers I've worked with, he probably has that kind of exceptional ability that puts him on a par. He's right up there in terms of how these goalkeepers play with their feet, and he has given Blues a different dimension this season. And that will be the biggest miss for me. Kind of that composure on the ball at the back, the way he just puts his foot on the ball and rolls it even when a striker's running towards him, gives his defenders confidence. But obviously he's got that outrageous ability to ping passes to Laird mainly, but also to Anderson, to TGH. And it's different to the way a lot of goalkeepers strike a football, isn't it? Like, he strikes it and keeps it low, whereas a lot of goalkeepers loop it up in the air and it's waiting to come down. He absolutely pings it into them with force, like there's purpose behind that pass. And there aren't many goalkeepers outside of the Premier League that can do that. So he's a bit of a cheat code, I said on Saturday, and Blues will really miss him if he's out for any length of time.
Yeah, I was looking at his socials yesterday, just stalking him to see if he dropped an injury update or something like that, that we could potentially turn into content. There wasn't anything, but I did sort of stray upon a post that he put up when he signed for Blues, and there was Hull City fans on there. Many of whom wished him well, but quite a few saying, the errors have cost us this season, which would have been last season, and when they just finished outside the Championship playoffs, and they made reference to mistakes, and we've just not seen them, have we, this season from that point of view? Listen, we're not writing all sorts of obituary yet. We will hopefully see him again this season, but yeah, just as a bit of sort of a discussion about how important he is to the team. Both in terms of his distribution and his, as you said, his goalkeeping has been exemplary as well. But you were talking about Peacock Farrell coming back into a better team, a more organised defence. Was that the point you were making?
Yeah, I think so. He will, and I mean, we don't know who's going to play at right back yet, but if it's Christian Bielik, he's then got three centre-backs essentially in the back four. He's got Alex Cochrane as a left-back who's very dependable. Blues don't concede many goals now, do they? I think Allsop's probably more important in the way that Blues play, but defensively, you shouldn't really notice a massive difference with Peacock Farrell in goal. As long as he can be a commanding presence when crosses do come into his box, that's going to be very important. But if Blues play without Allsop's incredible passing range for a length of time, then fair enough. Peacock Farrell doesn't have that. We're not expecting him to have that, but he just needs to be a good goalkeeper in this time. And that was probably more the criticism raised over him at the start of the season, because it wasn't just that he was conceding goals playing out from the back, it was that he was actually making goalkeeping errors as well that cost him Blues. So he needs to have put this behind him over the last 5 months that he's been out of the team, and actually kind of do what Blues expected of him when he signed. Yeah,
indeed. And hopefully it'll be something that Davies and the set piece team discuss, because they've been used to Ryan Allsop coming and claiming or punching, haven't they? And Peacock Farrell didn't necessarily do a lot of that when he first came into the season. But he's coming into a very, very stable team with a pair of centre backs in Clara and Davies that are as good as anything. Well, the best in League One, and probably as good as most things in the Championship, to be fair. So, hopefully there won't be too many beats skipped on that front. You made reference to the right-back situation. So, obviously, Ethan Laird's gone out with what looks like a hamstring. Did you mention the prognosis? I know you wouldn't have got anything out of Chris Davies about how long it might be, but
no.
It wasn't a season ender. Was that what he said?
No, that was what he said on both. He said, but initially they both don't look like season-ending injuries, because obviously at this stage, you're 2 months left, you're kind of worried, aren't you? Especially with Laird's hamstring record or injury record of the past, and also potentially rolling his ankle. So that's good. I suppose the question will be, can they both get back in plenty of time before the cup final so they can get back in the team and get back fit? Laird pulled up pretty much like a standard hamstring that you've seen a million footballers do in the past. So again, time frames for a hamstring are normally between 3 and 6 weeks, aren't they?
Yeah, depending how bad they are. Which obviously leaves a vacancy at right back. We've seen it filled by Gardner Hickman, who's now playing left wing. Christian Bielik has played there, and there is also Alphonse Samsted. Is that the options? I missed anybody else there?
TJH Samsted and Bielik.
We're not putting Clara out there and sticking Grant Hanley in the team, are we? No,
definitely not. No. Bielik's a favourite for me massively, because I was speaking to Chris Davies about kind of managing Bielik and him not playing this season at the press conference before the Wycombe game, and just kind of asking, in your first managerial job, has that been one of the hardest challenges, having a captain who's not playing for a length of time? And he suggested it was, and also that Bielik's been a great captain behind the scenes and he's learning how to be a leader, and that it's not always about him. But there was clearly almost a desire on Davies' part to kind of get him back into the team. And we saw that earlier in the season when he realised that Ben Davies and Clara was a really formidable partnership. He shifted Bielik to right back, didn't need to keep him in the team, and played a slightly different way. And I wouldn't be surprised if Blues did that again. Obviously, that really does change the balance of the team and the dynamic of the team on that right-hand side, because Bielik is not going to be your Ethan Laird marauding up and down. So you're probably going to need to find a right winger who isn't Kieran Dowell or Willem Willemsen, a right winger who's going to hug the touchline and have the width like Keshi Anderson did first time Bielik was at right back, but obviously he's not there now, so it'd have to be someone else. I don't see it being Samsted. He's not played, has he? He hasn't got a look in League One all season, really. Hasn't made a league start, so I'd be stunned if it was him. And TGH is having to fill in elsewhere at the moment, so I don't think it'll be him either. I think it's going to be Bielik.
Which means Cochrane is the width on the left, presumably now. The width on the right, as you said, will come from...
This is the thing. I mean, Emil Hansen did it for one half, I think, around Christmas on the right-hand side. Obviously, he's predominantly on the left. Whether they move TGH to the right and puts Hansen on the left or put someone else on the left, I don't think you play Kieran Dowell or Willem Willemsen on the right if you've got Bielik at right back. I'd be surprised if he did that.
I think TGH is the most likely, to be honest. We've seen him hug both touchlines, and particularly when he's played on the right as the width on the right. He can play sort of quite wide and get the ball into the box quite quickly. And you trust him to go up and down, don't you? In terms of his defensive work, as well as getting the ball in on top of that. So it would probably feel the most natural fit would be hopefully Hansen's ready for a start. So Cochrane and Hansen on the left, and then Bielik and Gardner-Hickman, who is probably more defensively minded anyway and able to support Bielik with that area of his work. That would feel like the most natural fit. But then when Keshi Anderson comes back, that probably changes that dynamic again. Yeah,
I'm just thinking, if you play TGH on the right, who plays left? Do you play Hansen on the left, where he's obviously better suited and more natural?
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
I think. And I guess your person in the 10 is going to be Dowell over Willemsen at the moment.
I guess so. Yeah, indeed. We talked about Thor improving, but showing brighter moments against Wycombe. But Dowell. It was Dowell that again seemed to unlock a little bit more, wasn't it? With his picking of his passes. So, yeah. Although again, plenty of games to come. You don't mind rotating them or giving them 60 minutes and then 30 and then 30 and 60 and two or 3 days later. So, yeah, interesting one. I think we probably should touch on the Blues 11.
Yeah.
For Bolton. Obviously, the Blues go there tomorrow night. What are your thoughts about what happens now? Peacock Farrell in goal, Bielik right back. There's Clara and Davis centre backs and Cochrane, and then Mark Leonard's back in the picture. Are you changing central midfield at all?
I mean, I might, but Chris Davies won't. So it's going to be Peck and Awar, isn't it? It always is when they're fit. So I think it will be those two. And then it's always in the front four positions where potentially the rotation can occur, isn't it? So Alfie May feels like you're shooing at the moment. He's getting a run in the team. He's obviously not scoring. He's still getting chances. But even if Stansfield is fit this week, potentially, I can't see him going straight into the 11. I think he's going to have to come off the bench first, isn't he? So I do think May will get a chance to start for the third successive league game. And like you say, Brian, maybe TGH, if Bielik is at right back, he's the favourite for that position. Then you've obviously got Hansen on the left and probably Dowell in the 10. Could even play Luke Harris off the left if Cochrane is overlapping as left back. And then you've got Dowell in the 10 still. So if he doesn't want to risk Hansen from the start, because obviously Lord knows Blues don't need another injury out wide, then maybe he could play Harris there. Yeah,
indeed. Should we have a look at the promotion picture? I think it's 26 points to be mathematically sure of promotion, isn't it? 28 to be mathematically assured of going up as champions. I just want to look at the form table we've put on the running order here. The last 8 games, Blues are top of the form table, obviously. They've won 6 of the last 8. And just to go down to the chasing pack, Wycombe are actually 7th in the form table over the last 8. They've only won 1 out of 5 under Mike Dodds since Mike Dodds has been in. And over 8, they've won 3 of the last 8. Wrexham have won 4 of the last 8. What I've noticed with Wrexham is the bedrock and the sort of foundation of their success, particularly this season, has been that home form. They're starting to drop points at home as well now. So, we've been saying this for a long time, haven't we? That it's when, not if. But what's your assessment of when the when is, when the when might be, sort of thing?
Yeah, we were looking at this before we came on air, weren't we? And trying to kind of work out a game it might be. So 76 points from 32 games. Interestingly, I saw yesterday is the best total any League One team has had at this point of the season. So that just suggests they're obviously on course for all sorts of records. I don't see those teams behind keeping pace now. Well, they haven't kept pace for the last couple of months, have they? But they're going to fall away now, I think. And Blues, it's going to be 17 points to Wrexham in 3rd if they win the game in hand. So that's essentially 6 wins, isn't it? So 6 games to go if Wrexham can keep pace with Blues until those 6 games.
What is the game in hand? Is it Stevenage away still?
No, it is Stevenage at home.
Stevenage at home.
Yeah, right. Stevenage at home on March 11th. Yeah. So Stevenage away is probably going to be postponed anyway.
That's right. That's the international break one, isn't it? Yeah.
So, after the cup final on April 13th, because Stevenage away and Blackpool away are going to be postponed, Blues are going to have 6 games. So, for me, the likelihood is that Blues promotion automatic is going to be confirmed before the cup final at this rate. So, I'm looking at the Barnsley game on April 5th. Right. I know Sky have just picked the Bristol Rovers game on April 1st, haven't they, to be televised?
Right, okay.
So maybe they're thinking it could be that game that Blues are confirmed back in the Championship. But it's going to be around that time, isn't it? I'm going to take a punt and say Barnsley at home. And it would be nice if Blues did it at home with all their fans there.
Yeah, it absolutely would. And I just want to look at the Wrexham. The Wrexham are the sort of the team that we're keeping an eye on, and I did have their running or their next 5 games up before I came away. Just excuse me, I'll just find that again. So Wrexham's next 5, pretty demanding. They're away at Huddersfield, at home to Rotherham, away at Wycombe, at home to Stockport. Huddersfield, Rotherham, Reading. Sorry, I'm absolutely butchering this, aren't I? Next game away at Huddersfield. Game after that, home to Rotherham. Then Reading away, Wycombe away, Stockport at home. The Stockport at home game is the international break, so that might get moved. But they've got a very difficult run of games, which is what I'm in a very long-winded way trying to say. So, it does feel like in a month's time, we'll know. We really will be looking at, this is the game that Blues can go up. I wonder. I hear what you're saying about the game. You think they might go up. I wonder if it might be a back-to-back, sort of promoted away at Peterborough on the Tuesday, then winning the Virtue Trophy against Peterborough on the Sunday.
A double in a week.
Yeah, indeed. If there's ever a riposte to a Barry Fry's double, it is, doing the double against Barry Fry. It could go to East. It could go to Easter, couldn't it? The 2 matches at East. I think Burton away is one of them. So yes, it's imminent, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, we might as well look at while we're at it and kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We might as well look at the points total again, because I was working out the maths again on Saturday evening, and Blues are now tracking for 109 points, having taken 76 from 32. So that would obviously would smash Wolves' League One points record by 6 points, and would also beat the points record, EFL points record set by Reading when they won the championship in 05-06, I think. So they literally are, and they're on course for history. And I feel like when Chris Davies joined back in June, he would have been looking at something like this, knowing that he would have had an exceptional League One team, better than anyone else, because the money Blues were going to spend in the summer, that he would have wanted to make a statement and make a real mark in League One in his first job. And him and his team are doing that, and threatening to kind of break all EFL records put before them.
Yeah, indeed. I think I wrote, probably six weeks ago, 2 months ago, it's not massively entertaining, but it is really, really impressive. And it's just become more impressive, hasn't it? 18 games unbeaten, only conceding 4 goals. They are an absolute machine, aren't they? And, they every sort of manager you speak to, or opposition reporter you speak to, or you even some supporters on social media, you just go, they end up saying, yeah, clearly the best team at League One I've ever seen in League One, don't they? People are just saying that, and yeah, I hope for Chris Davies and I hope for his players that it just doesn't get washed away with, oh, you've had the money, you should be the best team that League One's ever seen, because Chris Davies has put together a really coherent and cogent side. He's built a team, yes, with good technical ability all over the park, but first and foremost, they're a well-coached team.
They are. And I wanted to quickly put this to you before we finish. Do you, when Blues are inevitably promoted, there's going to be potentially like another 6 to 10 games after that, isn't there? Or probably 6, 7, 8 games after that.
Yeah.
Do you think he's got it in him to actually make changes, knowing that the points record is going to be at stake? I genuinely can't see him making that many changes. I think he'll obviously give players minutes, like people like Luke Harris, Emil Hansen, players who haven't played enough, like Mark Leonard maybe. But I don't, he gets to that point, and in years gone by, managers have completely, almost thrown it, haven't they? And given everyone minutes and used it as a chance to blood youngsters and things. And I just don't see Chris Davies taking his foot off the gas at all. But I don't see him making enough changes for it to become a conversation. Oh, has complacency creeped in? Because I just don't think he'll let it happen.
No, I don't think he will either. I just do not see Chris Davies allowing Blues to, go beyond the beach sort of thing. In fact, even in July or June, when they go on holiday and they are on the beach, it wouldn't surprise me if they look at their phones and there's a program from Chris Davies there waiting for them to do. No, you've used the phrase "foot off the gas." Don't see it happening. I guess the one exception would be if if a player has been carrying a certain injury, they want to get to the bottom of what's going on with Hansen, or they want to, not wishing an injury against somebody on anybody else, which we've already done. If they get to a situation where they might say, let's shut you down now and give you a good long summer, do a bit of rehab and get to the bottom of whatever's going on, they might do that. But when I don't think many of the 21s can suddenly expect 5 games, five free games at the end of the season. I really don't.
It's like Chris Clara struggled with a back injury on occasions, hasn't he, has played through. Does Chris Clara need to play the final 5 games when there's Grant Hanley there, who probably needs 5 appearances to get himself to a medal or whatever? He's been quite good when called upon, and he's a really consistent player and probably wouldn't be complacent. So I don't see an issue making that kind of change. Yeah,
indeed. And, the depth is such that if you do, let's say, close Chris Clara down for the season, at some point, next month, you get Grant Hanley, who's come from Norwich to come into the side. And, that depth is at the moment, is never better exemplified than the fact Blues haven't got, their 14, 10, 12 million pound signing Jay Stansfield. They haven't got Lyndon Dykes, who Scotland international, has come from the Championship. So what do? You go and put on, call on League One's top scorer for the last 3 seasons. That depth is what's really making them so relentless. And, you know, in reference to will they take their foot off the gas, if they do start rotating the team, then the players that come in are still going to be, you know, very, very too good for League One even.
Exactly. That's a nice way to end, Brian. Any more business, or are we?
No, let's wrap it up. Yeah, as you said, you are heading off to Bolton tomorrow for the latest stage in the League One roadshow. Have a safe trip. Thank you for your time, Alex, and thank everybody else for listening. Keep right on from both of us.